Hello, everyone. Mike Haas, voice of the Saints, along with Deuce McAllister, number 26, number 1 in your heart. Day 2 in the books, and if you kind of just had blinders on, it looked a lot like day 1, but certainly some differences. Jameis Winston had full pads on today, took part in a little bit more. Michael Thomas had full pads on, took part in a little bit more. Not an eternity more, but certainly different than yesterday.
Yeah, a little bit different than yesterday, and I think overall, if you're being honest, I would probably say from an offensive standpoint, Green Bay probably had more touchdowns. Well, when you look at that a little bit deeper, that's because we're down your top 4 tackles, which, you had an opportunity to see some young kids grow, and Trevor Penning was one of those guys. He probably had about 80 snaps. And that's a lot for a practice, particularly on a day that's warm. And so for him to get thrown in there and really hold his own, I mean, look, there were times that obviously you're going to get beat, but I thought he held his own. And so you saw some growth from him in that situation. Hurst kind of got banged up a little bit. Dockster.
Sage Dockstader?
Dockstader, yeah, got banged up a little bit. So both of those guys had to leave. And even Penning, Trevor got banged up a little bit, but he was able to come back. And so that's why he was kind of taking reps with the first and second team. And, he had to battle a little bit. And I think overall, and the reason I would give it to the Packers defense, or at least Packers overall, was because they were able to score some touchdowns with their second unit. I think Rodgers, for the most part, when they were in the red zone, I think they had 1 or 2 touchdowns, but Saints defense did what they do. And that was, hey, look, we'll give up a play or two, but outside of that, we're holding you to force you kick field goals.
As we talked about yesterday, and really post-Houston, was the confidence level of Ian Book. He's taken a ton of snaps the last 2 days. Thought today, I felt like he was more in command, threw a couple of nice balls to the tight end, Luke Skrull. Just felt like he needed a bit of a confidence boost.
Well, that was in a 2-minute. I thought he did a really nice job in that situation. He had a couple passes. If he's going to be upset with himself, when they were working twos, moving the football, there were 2 instances where he had Deontay Hardy. Man was beat. And he put it where he couldn't catch it, kind of overthrowing him, and that was twice. And those are 2 passes that he wants back because, 1, he probably hadn't thrown with him a lot, being Deontay Hardy, but 2, you've got to make those connections, particularly when you're beat. Your guy has a guy beat by about 3 steps. And so, but overall, I thought he had a pretty good day. Love, their quarterback, their number 2 quarterback, probably had his best day because, like I said, he was able to connect with their guys, their receivers, a lot more than he did yesterday.
I mean, he's been in the system a while. He's certainly he's a different number 2 than most. Coach Allen said in his post-practice that they would decide in the next couple of days about playing time. Yeah. But you'd have to be surprised maybe if we saw Jameis, if we saw Mike Thomas, there just doesn't seem to be any benefit along those realms.
I agree. I mean, I would be surprised if you saw even DeMario more than a series or 2. Cam Jordan probably the same thing. I don't think you'll see Alvin at all. And so I think for those guys to get this type of work is what you need. But when it comes time to playing, they want to evaluate some of those young kids and see where they are.
And finally, some coaches believe in these practices, some coaches don't. But this seemed to be 2 days of textbook, exactly what you wanted.
Yeah, you saw little flare-ups. Yesterday it was more talking, and today no punches thrown, but probably a little bit more flare-ups. But outside of that, this has been, really, really good work for 2 good teams. And, I think it was brought up that the Packers are based out of a 3-4, even though you convert it to a 4-3 look when you're blocking it. But I think that's good for our guys to see it because we're based out of a 4-man front. And so, 2 defensive tackles, 2 traditional defensive ends. The Packers, they're a nose tackle and 2 defensive ends and 4 linebackers. And so it's good to get that look, and so when you play a team like that, it's not the first time that you see it.
It's all coming up tomorrow. The Saints practice alone, Packers practice alone, and then on Friday, of course, kickoff at 7 o'clock here at Lambeau Field on the Community Coffee New Orleans Saints Radio Network.